Hello and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Brad Carmina and I'll be taking you through a tour of Deltek's solution for project-focused businesses. Today's presentation will last approximately 55 minutes. We'll start off with a brief overview of Deltek as a company, why the Deltek Vision solution is a great one for project-focused businesses, and then move on into an overview of the demonstration of Deltek Vision. At the end of today's presentation, you should have a better understanding of the benefits and functionality offered by Deltek and Vision. Given the recent economic challenges we've experienced over the past few years, you may be wondering what you can do to run your business more effectively and serve your clients better. Some of the questions you may be asking yourself are, is my business profitable? If so, how profitable is it? Is the information that I have to rely on really reliable to come to this conclusion? How can we reduce or get a better handle on our overhead expenses, and how can we see the impact on our margins? Are people effectively utilized? Are they happy? How can I ensure both? And how can we win more business? Are our customers happy? Are they even profitable? As an established, stable, and financially sound software company, Deltek has been helping firms like yours solve critical business issues since 1983. With more than 1,600 employees worldwide, we're a recognized leader in creating project-focused solutions for our more than 12,000 customers. And we've been recognized by industry analysts such as Forrester, Gartner, and Zweig White for our innovative products and ability to serve project-focused businesses. The Deltek solution that I'll be showing you today is called Deltek Vision. This innovative solution is in use by over 4,000 professional service firms all over the world. Its modular design allows you to build a comprehensive solution to manage the entire project lifecycle, and its user-friendliness and single database design make it easy to use and implement. From a technology standpoint, Vision addresses a common problem in today's business environments: disconnected, disparate systems that are not fully integrated. Disconnected systems can lead to inaccurate data, wasted time, and higher expenses. Maintenance and licensing alone could be a significant expense. Vision gives you a comprehensive solution built on modern technology that incorporates all of your data in a single database and is accessed from the same user interface. You're able to create a fully integrated solution and choose the specific models that you need now, while giving you the flexibility to add additional modules later on. And because we're using a single solution, licensing, maintenance, and upgrades are made that much easier. And now I'll take you through a tour of Deltek Vision. The Deltek Vision dashboard is designed to give you the information that you need at your fingertips when you log into the system. Deltek Vision is role-based, so based on who you are and what you do within the company, your view here on the dashboard will change when you log in. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. This particular example we're looking at here today, this is more of an operations manager or some high-level project manager. We have some financial information on the top left, and we'll come back to the rest of the information on the dashboard in just a moment. But I want to flip through a couple of examples of different types of dashboards that you can actually get out of Vision. So the next one here would be more of a marketing manager or a CRM person coming into the system and managing the data that's important for them. So pipeline information, where the weighted revenue is coming from based on opportunities that are out there today. What are the different types of marketing efforts that I'm taking on and how are they paying off? Another example would be more of a streamlined or slimmed down project management dashboard that just gives me a list of the projects that I am the project manager of, or the clients that I have associations with, or the contacts for those clients that I'm associated with as well. And then the last example would be more of just a timesheet user, someone who's logging into Vision just to do their timesheet, but let's give them a little bit of additional information as well. And the one thing to point out here with this particular dashboard is this user can see their PTO accruals or paid time off or sick or whatever it may be right on their dashboard when they log in, so they don't have to go and look for it, or they don't have to go and ask someone else what their account balances are. They can see them as soon as they log into Vision. So let's step back over to the operations dashboard and step through a few of the items that we have here. Top left hand corner, key financial metrics. This particular report probably has 150 different measures that are available to display this important information for your firm right on your dashboard. But if those items aren't available, you could create your own measures from the measures that are already there. So calculated fields. The next one, bottom left hand corner, top 5 project profit for the year. just a quick snapshot of here are those top 5 projects and how profitable they've been for the year. The middle one, build versus compensation. And when we talk about compensation in Vision, that's more of our total billable contract fee for that job. So these handful of projects, we can see right off the bat, Walshingham Park, we've actually invoiced quite a bit more than what we had a billable fee for. At this point in time, it may be time for a change order, or we may be looking at write-offs for that particular project. The next example here is alerts. And alerts are Vision's way of letting you know that there are things within your business or your system that require your attention. And we have a few different examples here. The first one, an AR aging report. And if I go ahead and just click on that link, it'll run that AR aging report for me. This one has been configured to show me all of the AR that's over 60 days old. So we can keep track of all of that AR that's over 60, over 90, over 120, however you want to view that information right off of the dashboard. Okay, the next example, probability has changed on a particular opportunity that's out there. So it's changed to 100%, and that means basically that we've won it or we're going to win it. Maybe as part of my job, I need to go in and do something with that opportunity, whether it be creating a new project for it or creating a budget for it, whatever it may be. Timesheet approval. In this case, I'm logged in as a timesheet approver, and one of the employees that work for me has just submitted their timesheet. I'm able to see that approval alert and navigate over to their timesheet if I were to click on this link to be able to review and approve that particular timesheet. In another example, an opportunity has been awarded. So a very simple, similar alert to the probability change is a stage change. These are built using our workflow engine, and you can basically build your own business rules off of that workflow engine based on changes that happen to records within the system. That can be an email or a dashboard alert like you see here, or you can force changes in other columns as well. So let's say, for example, we were to terminate an employee. We can have a termination date that automatically puts today's date into that termination date when we change that employee status from active to terminated. Just a quick example of how you can use workflow within Vision. The next example is just a timesheet 1 day overdue. Now you can really configure the rules of these timesheet alerts to work with your business. So if you want it to come out 2 days before they're due, you can say timesheets are due in 2 days. And it will actually come in on that Wednesday if your timesheet week ends on a Friday. However you want to configure those, we can support that using the tools that we've built into the system here. And then a couple of other ones that tie into our resource planning or project planning module, budget milestone, just a quick alert letting me know that I've reached a specific percentage on my job. But you can also have an alert that'll tell you when you've gone over budget on a job at any point in time. However you want to configure those is fine. And next, a resource assignment. Isaac Washington works for me, and I want to know when he's been assigned to work on particular jobs. I have a resource assignment alert showing up on my dashboard. Now this could also email Isaac or put an alert on Isaac's dashboard as well, letting him know that he's been staffed for this particular job. The next one, my reports, are just a handful of pre-configured reports that have been configured for me and my role, so that when I log in, I don't have to go to the reporting section and select which projects are important to me and what the options and columns that I want to see on those reports are. We can just do those up front, save them out to the roles, and then all that user has to do is click on the link when they log in. So I could just click on this office earnings report. It'll go ahead and run that report for me, so that when I log in, all I need to do is click that link and get the reports that are relevant to my position, and really include the projects that are relevant for me and what I'm able to view within the system. Okay. The next section here is called Company Project Visualization, and visualization is a tool to look at a portfolio of projects and really pick out where there may be outliers within that portfolio. So let me just step through a little bit about what we're seeing here. This is basically a heat map, and in this case, color is represented by profit. So the darker the blue we have, the higher the profitability on that project, where the closer we get to the red side of the spectrum, we either have no profit or negative profit in this case. And then also total compensation. Again, thinking back, this is our billable fee for this job, and the larger the box, the larger the billable fee for that job is. So we can see that the Four Seasons Creative Learning Center, we've already noted that it's a profitable job. It's also got a large billable fee, so this may be a great job for us. But the power in this tool is that I can go ahead and switch the measure that I'm looking at on the fly to have a different view of the same set of data. So if I wanted to look at AR instead of profit, I can make that switch, and now that bright blue project is now bright red. It can be as profitable as the reports read, but if they're not paying their bills, then there's definitely something wrong with the project. What I can do from here is just go ahead and right click, drill down into the DH accounts receivable report right off of this visualization dashboard to be able to narrow down what the problem really is with this project. And I can see here I've got AR all the way back to 2009, and it's way past time for Alexander Dane to get on the ball and get some of this money in, or send it over to collections, or whatever that next action may be. Now what we can do also with this view is go ahead and change the way that we're grouping it. So right now it's by organization and then by the project short name, and you can see each one of these boxes is a specific organization or profit center or cost center within my company. What I can do is say I don't want to look at it by organization, maybe I want to see it by client. I can go ahead and switch to a client view and then get a grouping of the clients and the projects that belong to those clients. Or maybe I want to remove the grouping altogether and just see projects big to small, and this may be more of what a project manager would see for their portfolio. Now you can see that I have my big project up here in the top left all the way down to some of my smaller projects here in the bottom right, and I could get a quick view of what they are just by hovering over what those projects are. So this is just a quick tool that's on your dashboard that allows you to really drill down into and see specific information about projects, but also get a big picture of where all your projects are in relation to each other as well. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and navigate back over to my dashboard, and one thing I'd like to do here is go back up to this stage change. This opportunity has been awarded, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that'll go ahead and take me to the opportunity record that's been awarded. Now an opportunity in Vision is that potential future revenue. It's that job that's down the street that we've been chasing, or some building that we know is going up, and in this case this is a research lab and I may be an architect and I want to get in on that business. So let's talk about a few of the items that we see here on the opportunity record. First thing, what the name of the opportunity record is, what the plan that we eventually created for that record. So getting really a 360 view of the life cycle of a project right here within the project or the opportunity info center. The regular project can also be linked here as well. So proposal, what was that project that we used to capture the work that it took or the labor that it took for us to win that job? The regular project is that regular billable job, and then the project plan is the resource plan that we've used to really budget out that project. Down below here in stakeholders, one thing I really want to highlight here is organization. And if I go ahead and open up the organizational tree, you can see that in this case, this particular Vision database is a multi-company database. I have 4 companies here, and then I have separate offices and then disciplines below those different companies. You can have up to 5 different levels of organizational structure in Vision. Vision can be multi-company, and in this case you can see I have 4 companies. They're all sharing the same database, so they share the same client list. Employees can charge to projects that belong to other companies without having to log out and log into a different database or a different system. But then we can also use these projects or these organizational structures to really do some type of matrix style organizational reporting. So if I wanted to see how Cohen was doing as a whole, I could report on that. If I wanted to see how the corporate office in the Cohen company is doing, I could report on that as well separately. But then I can also drill down into and see, hey, here's engineering and it belongs to a few of the different offices that I have. How am I doing on engineering as a whole across my company? I can report down to that level as well, no matter what the top levels are. Okay. Down below here in the forecast we have a revenue amount, and that's the potential revenue that we may get if we win this job. The probability here, 100%, drives the weighted revenue here as well. So not only can we report on what we think we may get if we win this job, but what the actual weighted revenue is based on the probability here. In this case it's 100%, so it matches the revenue, but it may not always do that. I have a start and an end date, and what this will do is actually straight line forecast out the revenue or the weighted revenue for me, so I can get a marketing forecast based on my pipeline. But what you could also do is, if you know specific types of jobs are recognized or recognizing revenue differently, you can go ahead and build in a schedule for how the revenue is recognized across the calendar time frame, and that's pretty easy to do here. you could then save specific template opportunities and copy those in and have that estimated revenue schedule there, and then maybe all you'd have to do is update the dates or whatever else you may want to do here. The other item here is the stage of the opportunity, and the stage can drive a few different things. One of the things that you notice is that when I navigated to this record, I navigated off of an alert that was on my dashboard that told me that this particular opportunity was awarded. There's that stage change of awarded. But what we can also do is have maybe a stage of lost, and if I change that to lost, then this lost reason field becomes a required field, and I have a few different items that I could pick from. Now, anywhere in Vision where there's a drop-down list, you can basically determine what the values should be in that drop-down list. So just like the stages up here, you can define your own stages, you can define your own lost reasons, you can define the different types of works that you do. But what you can also do with Vision is design the way or the look and feel that you want to have within these info centers. So if I go ahead and click on the designer here in the bottom right, and not everybody would have access to that because of, again, Vision is a role-based system. What you could do from here is then just start moving fields around, placing them in an order that makes sense for you and your users. Okay, so now what we can also do is, you can see that I have a little help bubble here. If I click on that help bubble, this is the information that the user would see if they were able to click on that help bubble when they were actually entering in the opportunity. So if we navigate back over to that opportunity record, you see lost reason here. Here's that help bubble. If I go ahead and click on that, it's basically telling me what I have to do when something happens, or what the purpose of that field is. So you can really place these help bubbles throughout the system to let your people know what you expect them to do when they reach that particular field. Okay. Next, I want to move over into our service estimate, and our service estimate is just a quick way of putting together a small, maybe a project plan to see how we may end up if we win this work. And the power or the benefit in having this CRM function built into the same tool that we're using to do our project planning and timesheets and everything else is that we have cost and billing rate tables that are out there for the people that work for us. I'm able to grab those cost and billing rate tables, and based on the type of resource that I choose, have those cost and billing rate tables automatically filled out for me. So I can use some of the same information that's used on the accounting side to populate some of my budgeting information as well. So in this case, I have several different generic resources, and let's say for this mechanical engineering phase, I have a senior consultant. I think it's going to take 425 hours for him. When I go ahead and make that change and refresh my analysis, I can get a better view of what the gross margin may end up being based on the changes in the hours or consultants or expenses that I've planned to use for this job. Okay. The next tab here is Team tab, and this is just simply who are the employees that I expect to work on this job, what is their role, do I want a description for that role, and then vendors are outside consultants or outside labor that I may use to complete this job as well. One of the other items that we have here built into Vision, and this is more on the CRM side, are activities. Activities are a way of tracking all of those touch points that your people have with people outside of your firm. So in this case, for this Benson Research Lab opportunity, these are all of those phone calls and meetings that we've had in the past. Okay. Next, on the clients, in some cases, some businesses may work as a sub, primarily working for other businesses, and we see this a lot with engineering firms. Engineering firms may work for a certain number of different clients that are out there. I want to be able to track who are all of the clients that are out there that are chasing the same work, so if one of them wins it, I know which one to go after to be added as a sub or a subcontractor on that project. And then again, these are all the contacts that belong to those clients that are working on this particular job as well. If I go ahead and move back over to my General tab here, what I'd like to do is just go ahead and navigate over to our project record for this particular project. Now in this case, we've won this project, and it's time to start building the project or setting it up. And just to point out a few different things here, one thing to start off with is the work breakdown structure. Vision is able to have a 3-level work breakdown structure. In this case, we've named it project, phase, and then task. But if you don't have that same, if you call it project, task, subtask, we can support that as well. You make a quick change in configuration, and it propagates that change throughout the entire program. Okay. Another thing to point out with the project phase and tasks is that each one of these tasks could have a different billing type, could have a different revenue structure. So code analysis could be a fixed fee or a percent complete type of billing, and then programming could be a time and materials. We support that, and we can actually invoice all of that out on the same invoice out of Vision. Okay. The next thing to point out here is the organization works the same way on the project as it did as I explained it on the opportunity side in slicing and dicing how we're doing from department to department or office to office, company to company, whatever it may be. Now a few different tools to point out here right within the project record. One thing for certain, approved for use in processing. This particular checkbox allows you to tell Vision whether this project has been approved for timesheets, expense reports, AP voucher, billing, whatever it may be. A lot of times what we see is certain companies have a project initiation form. That project initiation form is either done in Excel or offline or whatever it may be, passed over to someone in accounting or someone in contracts, and then that person then enters in the project information into Vision. So what you're seeing is information being entered in multiple places. What you can do with Vision is have that particular field hidden for the roles that would actually be entering in the projects, and have that workflow process that I talked about before kick off an approval process where someone in accounting or contracts will be notified when a new project has been set up. They could then come in here and review that project record, make sure that all that information that they need for that project to be a real project and be billable in the system is there, then approve it for use in processing by checking this checkbox on, and then it would be available for timesheet users and whomever else. The other thing that you could use that workflow engine is to notify that project manager when the project has been approved, so he can then tell his team, hey, it's time to go start putting your time to that job. Contract management in Vision 7. This is a new feature in Vision 7.0. It allows you to track multiple contracts across several different projects. So what this means is that I can enter in a contract, and if I go ahead and hit insert, I get a new contract dialog, and I'm able to track most of the information about my contract. I'm able to also split that information down to the different phases and tasks that I have for my project, and that will automatically update all of the work breakdown structure on my plan with the new compensation values for the plan for the project. I can also track employee credits, so if there were employees that are getting a sales credit for this, and this creates a sales credit report on the employee side, so I can see how much their commission should have been for particular contracts and projects or periods out there. Okay. On the Team tab here within Vision is very similar to the Team tab on the Opportunity side, with the exception that the Team tab on the project side could be automatically populated based on timesheets and expense reports and AP vouchers that pass through the system. So in this case, you can see all of the employees that have spent timesheet time on this project. What I can also do is just click refresh hours and get those total hours that those employees have spent on the project right here in the project record, instead of having to navigate out to maybe a report or whatever else it may be. So I'm looking at the Benson Research Lab. I have a total of 4,400 hours on it so far. I can even drill down into one of these employees and see the history of their time on the project as well. Another tool that we have built into the Project Info Center is called Project Review. And Project Review is just a quick view of, hey, what have we done so far on this project versus the budget that we had. So in this case, we had a $1.075 million fee for this project. I've spent so far $139,000 in cost and $402,000 in billable value. One thing to point out with Vision, again, being that it's a role-based system, you may not allow some people to see cost within your system, and there's one flag that you turn off for that role, and this entire cost analysis item will not be here. So there's no chance in someone actually coming across, or either mistakenly or not, finding out what someone else may actually be paid. What I can also do here is just go ahead and drill down into any one of these items, and again, same with the Team tab, see that history of that person on the project. If there were any comments here, I could see those as well. Now, getting back to Project Review, we've also built in a little bit of accounts receivable review as well. So if I click on this accounts receivable tab, this is listing out for me all of the invoices that are out there for a particular project. For this particular project, I have two invoices, one of which has a credit memo. Now let's say I have the client on on the phone with me and I'm a project manager and I don't have all of the invoices that have gone out the door at my desk or in a filing cabinet or whatever, I would normally have to hang up the phone, walk over to someone in accounting, ask for a copy of that invoice, come back and make that call again. I don't have to do that anymore with Vision. What I can do is just go ahead and click on the invoice, and as long as it's been created in Vision, I can go ahead and say preview invoice and get a image of the invoice that was sent out to the client right from my dashboard here, right from within Vision. So here's the invoice that went out to the client, or maybe in this case I'm calling to ask them if they're going to pay it, and then they say, oh, we don't have that invoice. What I can do from here is just go ahead and email this invoice directly to the client or the project manager or whoever else that needs to get the copy of this invoice from me. Now what I can also do here is move back over into my accounts receivable view in project view, and then just go ahead and say go to comments, and what I can do is just say emailed a copy of the invoice to the client, check is in the mail. Okay, when I go ahead and do that, it's going to add that comment to that particular invoice, and I could see that always when I come into project view, or when someone goes into invoice review on the accounting side, or when they go into AR reporting, run the AR aging with comments, or run the AR comments report, they'll be able to get all of those comments that I've entered in through here as well. The next step within the project here is really the project plan. Where have we gone to budget out the labor and the expense and everyone else who's going to be used for that particular project? And I could get to that just by clicking on the Project Info Center right off the project plan link. This is taking me to the project plan for that particular project. Now one thing to notice here is that we have a lot of the same information that you saw on the project record right here within the project plan. We can leverage what we've entered into the system all the way back to the opportunity side to create a new project off of the opportunity, create a plan off of the project, or create a plan off of the opportunity, so we don't have to keep on entering in the same information over and over again. We enter it in once, no matter whether it's the opportunity or the project record, and we carry that forward. So I'm going to move on over into the rates tab here. On the rates, these are ways of really bringing in the actual cost and actual billable value for the employees that we're going to use for our plan, so we get a much more accurate view of how we're going to end up on the project based on the resources that we choose to staff our plan. And when we talk about resources and staffing, we'll go ahead and move over to this labor tab, and in this case you can see my project, my phase and task, and then all of those resources that I've chosen to use for this particular project. Underneath the task, we also have several resources, and in this case you can see we have multiple named resources as well as generic resources. So at the time when this plan was actually set up, I knew I needed a civil engineer, but I didn't know what the actual named resource was, and instead of taking time to stop and actually go and find someone, or actually not even enter in the plan at that point in time, you can use a generic resource as a placeholder for that labor, and then at some point in time in the future come in and change that generic resource over to a named resource. In this case, each person has their own start and end date, the total number of planned hours that they're supposed to work on that plan. But then the power and the beauty in having your planning tool in the same tool that you're using to do your timesheets is that the job to date hours automatically start filtering in on the plan. So if I step back a few periods here within my plan, for Chris Jensen, you can see he had 181 hours planned. He spent 207 so far. On the month by month view over here, I could start seeing baseline, which is really what did we think it was going to take us to finish this work when we first set up the project. Planned hours is based on all of the changes that have happened with the plan up to date. These are where we think those hours should have been, and now there's actual hours filtering into here as well. So you can really judge your performance as a planner when you judge baseline versus plan, but then you can also judge the performance of a project when you look at plan versus actual, or even baseline versus actual as well. You can compare all of these things together. Okay, so in this view we're going month by month, but you could do week by week or even day by day if you needed to get down into that level of detail. One of the things that this plan is telling me just by looking at this is this code analysis label is red, and that basically means that someone has charged time to this project that wasn't planned for it. I can go ahead and come over here and right click and go to job to date charging, and again get all of that timesheet information right from the planning module. So I don't have to go and look around and maybe run a report and figure out who it was or go back to timesheets. I can get this job to date charging full view of everything that's happened on this particular phase, and then I can go ahead and either add those resources on or start asking for some transfers or whatever it may be. Maybe these hours were entered in by mistake. Okay. We have two grids here within this planning view. On the left hand side we have more of a summary grid, and on the right hand side it's that detailed calendar view. So if I look over on the left hand side and I start scrolling a little bit over, I can see a planned billable value, and that's based on those rate tables that we've chosen before, maybe a percent complete, an estimate at completion. So estimate at completion is basically taking what do I have budgeted left to work on the job, what have I spent so far, adding those two numbers together. And when I look at estimate at completion versus what the planned value really is for the plan, so estimate at completion and planned value, if estimate at completion is over the planned value, then I'm over budget on that project to date because I still have all of that labor still budgeted out there and I've spent more than I should have so far. What I can do is just go ahead and go to options, go to configure planning grids, and then add the different types of grids for the information that I want to see here. So planned hours, job to date hours, fine. Maybe I just want to look at it as an hourly measure. I could just go ahead and move down and select which columns I want on, and in this case plan minus EAC hours. And when I do that, that's actually telling me for the plan so far I had planned 13,000 hours. To date I've used 4,906 hours, and then that job to date plus the estimate to completion, it's putting me at 3,800 hours over budget on this project so far. So pretty far over budget on this one. A quick way to view it here. But then we can also move down to our summary tab and see the summary of all of those hours at a billable value or at a cost value. So in this case, here's the billing summary. The baseline for the job was 1.271 million. I have a current plan value of 1.277. Job to date I've spent 425,000. Estimate to completion is what it's going to take for me to finish the job from today's date forward, or from the end of the period forward. You define what that date is. So what we're doing is we're taking the job to date plus the CTC to arrive at the estimate at completion, and then our over or under, the variance on that project. Now just like we can budget our labor on the project, we can also budget expenses. So if I have some in-house expenses like travel cost or lodging, I could budget those here as well. But if we're working with outside consultants or outside labor, I can also budget that outside labor, name the vendor, spread that cost across a calendar time frame, and track how they're performing against my budget as well. Now we have an analysis tool built into the project plan, and it's basically just a fancy, easy to use calculator. But what it's actually doing is it's showing me what I should expect for a profit percentage based on what I've budgeted so far, what my billable fee is, what some type of an overhead multiplier, and maybe a contingency percentage. And what I can do here is say, okay, 33.47, maybe I need 35% to make this worth it for me. Go ahead and enter in that number. It'll back into the billable fee that I should be looking for this job. Or on the flip side of that, if I know I can only get 1.4 million in fee for this particular job, I'll go ahead and plug that in, and you can see it automatically changes that profit percentage to 28.88. So just a quick way of viewing how we may end up on the project as far as profitability based on what I've budgeted so far. Now that's part of the project planning module, but the other half of it is actually starting to get a utilization view of my staff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to project planning, and then project planning, and then go to my resource utilization screen. And within resource utilization, I'm able to get, for these 2 months that I've chosen, all of my people. So the view of, instead of the projects that are out there, the people view, and see where my people are across the calendar time frame. So if I go ahead and show the legend over here, you can see that anyone who's blue within this calendar time frame is underscheduled. Anyone who's red or pink is overscheduled. and anyone who's properly scheduled is green. They're right where they should be. And this is based on a utilization rate that you set up for an employee when you set them up in the system, because they may not all be the same. Some employees may be more responsible for getting business in the door and doing some billable work, where some may be doing all billable work. And you may see this with maybe a principal position or whatever else it may be. Also notice that we have a civil engineer here as well. I've done a search for all of the civil engineers that are within my company. So any of those fields that you have available in the employee record to search by, you could search on here. I've limited it down to a specific group of employees. Here's my civil engineer generic resource, and then I can go ahead and see all of the projects that have that generic resource on there. I could go ahead from here and start doing resource searches to find an employee to take that work for that particular generic resource and do that type of staffing here as well. What I can also see in this view is that Kyle Holland and Richard Kennedy, they're overbooked. They're red. So for this particular week, he's 125% utilized. I could see all the plans that he's supposed to be working on for that week. And maybe if I look at this Wynn Casino job, I can go ahead and do an employee search here. And based on the skills that Kyle Holland has, maybe his job title, on the period that I'm looking at, and making sure that whatever resource that I do decide to assign to this, that they also have the time available to take it, so I don't inadvertently overbook them as well. So what I can do here is say maybe I don't care what profit center they're from, just as long as they have the same skills that Kyle does. And when I do that, I get this full listing of all of the people that can actually take that work from Kyle. In this case, Doris Sullivan, I could just go ahead and click reassign here. That's going to update this view, but it's also going to go back and update the plan. It's going to remove Kyle Holland as a resource on Wynn Casino and add Doris Sullivan as that resource. And if I go ahead and save this, that's going to go ahead and make that update to the plan. So today we've followed a little bit of the beginning of the life cycle of a project when we're looking at the CRM side, how to actually set up that project, how to plan the project, start working with the utilization of our people. Another aspect of project planning is the generic resources. So we can see the generic resources in that resource view, but we can also use this generic assignments function or task within Vision to look at all of those projects that are out there that have generic resources on them, okay, all in one single view. So when I'm doing my staffing meeting, I can bring this up on the screen or whatever and start saying, okay, for Citizens Creative Learning Center, I know I need a project manager, a senior engineer, a principal. I could do that same employee search that we saw on the employee side to find somebody who has those same skills or those same attributes as that generic resource that I signed, to make sure that I'm getting the right resource to do that work on my job. I can do the reassign here. It'll pull that generic resource off of my project plan and add that named resource on it. So after we've completed all of our staffing, all of the staffing changes that we need to make, really the next step in the project life cycle would be to start really gathering some of those expenses and time onto our projects. And the first place that we're going to go to after looking at the planning view here is our timesheet. So if I go ahead and move over to my timesheet in Vision, you'll see it's pretty straightforward. What it's going to ask me to do is choose a timesheet period to go into, and then here's the timesheet period for the current period. And what I can do here when I'm using project planning within Vision is not have to go out and look for the projects that I've spent my time on this week. I have been planned for specific projects, and what I could do is just go ahead and say copy from planning, and that'll go ahead and add the project that I'm supposed to be working on for this time frame to my timesheet. So I have one project for this time frame, and then the next thing I could do is do show planned hours and see how many hours I was supposed to work on that particular project for this week. So I had a total of 91 hours planned for it. I haven't spent any yet. This week I was supposed to spend 2.6 hours on it. So I can see my own personal budgets for those projects right here within my timesheet. That's not going to limit what I can actually do there if I actually spent more than 2.6. Maybe I spent 40, but I'm going to go ahead and tell Vision what I've done on that project, okay? And then I can go ahead and start entering in my time. And for this week I'm just going to put 8. But let's say on Wednesday I spent 10, so I can go ahead and put in down here in the bottom the overtime hours of 2. And then I could choose a comment from a list of comments. It also keeps a history of the comments that I've used in the past. I can pick from that list, or I could type in a brand new comment over here in the comment field. Now when I'm done with my timesheet, all I have to do is say submit, and that would send that notification or that dashboard alert that we saw earlier about a specific employee that works for you has submitted their timesheet. It's time for you to go in and approve it. In this case, I'm logged in as an approver, so I see this employees link up here on my menu bar. If I go ahead and navigate into the employees link, I could see all of the employees that I'm responsible for, the statuses of all of their timesheets, and in this case I have one that's submitted. I can limit it down to those, and in that case it's my timesheet, but I can go in and view anyone else's timesheet that I wanted to as well from here. Approve it, reject it, whatever I need to do. Okay. A couple of other things with the timesheet. You saw me copy in the project that I'm going to use based on planning, but I can also copy in from a prior timesheet and get the projects that were used on that prior timesheet onto the new timesheet as well. The other things that you can see when you're in your timesheet is ratios. So as a billable employee, maybe I want to see how billable I've been. What are my totals? Current, month to date, year to date. Year to date, just direct over standard hours, I'm 27% utilized, or direct over total hours, I'm 66% utilized. You can determine which of these ratios you want the employee to see, what the time frames are, and then they can start checking their own utilization throughout the quarter or throughout the year right here within their timesheet. The other items that you can see when you go to show is benefit hour. So you remember that report that I showed earlier on the dashboard? You can see that right here within the timesheet as well. I've got a starting balance of 40, current balance I haven't used any or gained any this year so far. Okay, after we've submitted and approved it, maybe we also need to do an expense report. So expense report really located in the same place as the timesheet, very similar. The way that the approval works as well. So those group approvers and having the approval go out to the managers. One difference with an expense report is it's not time frame specific. The user could basically make a report for a specific trip across dates. One of the things about Vision's expense reports is that you can have multiple projects on a single expense report. So you're not limited to a single project per expense report here. The other thing is that you can set up categories, and the type of category that you use actually drives the detail type that's available for it. So in this case, you can see I have a meals detail type or a meals category. If I go ahead and drill down into the detail, it's asking me for the business reason for that and the name of each person that was at that particular meal. The other thing that you can do here is set up your mileage, and when we go in and look at maybe a category that's a mileage category, when I get into the detail for mileage now, it allows me to put in the number of miles that I've driven. I have a hard-coded mileage rate here, or you can allow the employee to change this however you want to configure that. Now what's also happening when the employee is choosing these categories is that it's automatically assigning the general ledger account code for that. So there's no coding that needs to happen on the AP side after the expense report is done. It's all happening automatically based on the category that's chosen, the type of project that's chosen, and whether it's a billable expense or not. Okay, like I said before, the submittal, the approval is all the same here on the expense report. And one additional item that you have is called line item approval. And line item approval is a way for a project manager to go in and see all of the costs as far as timesheets and expense reports that have accumulated on their projects since the last time they were posted, either those timesheets or those expense reports, and accept or reject line item by line item those items on their projects. Now really the next area that we would talk about when we're talking about the life cycle of a project is after we've created it, budgeted the project, incurred some hours and expense on that project, how do we actually bill it? So in this case I'm going to move over to my billing menu and just go through quickly a few of the options that we have for billing within Vision. Now I've clicked on batch billing, and batch billing is a way to generate that draft billing run for all of those project managers you may have and all the projects that they work on throughout the month. So what you can do is just choose to email those invoices, and I'll say to project manager, and what that means is that each project manager is going to get a single file with all of their projects in it, all of those draft invoices in it, to review and approve and send back to you. Now what you can also do is choose to include a billing backup report, but then also an unbilled detail report as well. So maybe if it's a fixed fee type of job, that type of detail is not on the cover sheet of the invoice, you may want to send them a detail sheet as well so they can see the detail from throughout the month. Okay, after we start getting those draft back into billing, we would then move over into interactive billing and start making the edits and creating the invoices to actually send out the door. So in this case I'm going to go ahead and choose the Benson Research Lab, the same project we've been working with all along, But a bit of the power here with Vision is that I'm able to go into the labor tab here and see all of that labor that's out there that we've incurred on this project since the last time I built it. Now you have a few different options once you get into the screen. Over here next to the status, I could choose to bill that item, and that's the default, or I can hold it or write it off. The other thing that I can do here is to say, oh, you know, James wasn't supposed to work on this project at all. I can grab all three of these rows from him and choose to transfer, and I can transfer that over to a different project. So maybe in this case he was supposed to work on the Sandals Club. I'm going to select that project and move all of that labor for James over to that other project instead. Now that's moved the labor off of this project onto the other, but you can see here that this has also created a general ledger difference or variance, and it's actually created a posting log for that movement. So if there's some type of a variance that happens or it crosses some organization or profit center, you're going to get a posting log for that movement as well. That's the audit log for everything that's happened within this interactive billing. Okay, and the same thing holds true for expenses or units, or maybe even consultants, that they would actually show up in the expenses side here as well. You can do all of that type of hold or move or whatever you need to do. Another option that you have here is, let's say for Andy Long, these 8 hours, I really need to bill 4 but hold 4 as well. I can go ahead and just click on hold up here and change that to 4, and when I do, it's going to split that line. Now I have 4 billable, 4 held. It's going to bill those 4. When I issue the invoice for this, it's going to go ahead and release this hold back to billable after I've billed it for this month. Okay. A couple of the other items or tools that we have right here in interactive billing, I can go to Tools, Invoices on File, and here are all of the invoices that I've ever sent out for this particular project right here, no matter whether they've been paid or not. The other thing that I can do here is choose one of those items, issue a credit memo on it, void it, or preview it or print it, whatever I need to do right from here. Now after we've built our projects, the next part may be to actually go in and do some reporting on our projects or on our company as a whole. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and move over to our reporting menu, and the first area I would like to start off with in our reporting menu is really general ledger. So just a quick run through of a little bit of how Vision reporting works. We wanted to make this as easy as possible for someone to come in and create a project. And what that means for you is there's no custom coding, there's no outside report engines like Crystal Reports that you need to go in and use to modify a report in Vision. What you could do is just come directly into the report, choose the columns that you want, choose the projects that you want to include, however you want to configure that report, and run it right out of Vision. But then you can also save it as well to show up in that My Reports dashboard that we saw earlier. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and preview the income statement out of the box as it is here today, so you can get an idea of what the income statement in Vision looks like. Okay. After this is run, I'm going to go in and make some few quick changes to the report that will really change the way that we're actually viewing this report. So here's my income statement by account, account balance, current, year to date, and what I can do here is just go into the income statement again, go over to sorting and grouping, and let's say I wanted to break it out by the office locations that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Office, apply that, and preview it again, and now I'm going to get my income statement, I'm going to get each account, and then what is comprised of that account in each office. Okay, so now I can see the general ledger account code and the 2 offices that I have within that company underneath each GL account code. Now what we can do from here is just in a few different clicks drastically change the way that that particular report looks. So again, go into the options, go to sorting and grouping, grab the office, move it up to the top, and then maybe I want a page break on that as well. So when I go ahead and apply that option and preview it, now I'm going to get an income statement for each office location within my company. So here's corporate, here's Chicago, and here's Denver. I'm going to move back over to my navigation here and just pointing out from the reporting menu that we have reporting options for each of the different sections that we work within Vision. What I'd like to do now is just go ahead and go over to our project view, and here are the different project reports that are available. I'm going to go ahead and go to my office earnings report. I'm going to go ahead and enter in the Benson Research Lab. And one thing to point out here is that you've seen me throughout this demo. Just go ahead and type in the name of the record that I'm looking for. So just, the importance of that is I don't have to know the project number for every single, or the code for every single record that I'm looking for. If I know a part of the name, I could start typing it in, hit enter, and get the best possible match for that from a pick list. Now, what I could also do is just go into the options for this report. I could save batches, so maybe I want to see all of the time and materials projects, and here they are within this view. I could go ahead and apply that. Or if I wanted to see the top SE projects, here are those 11 projects that are those top projects. I can go ahead and apply that, and now I could see that I have that search on this particular report. Now I can also go into the office earnings options. So this is a good chance of really showing you the versatility within the Vision reporting. Now let's say in this case I want to run this at cost instead of billing. I don't really care what the overhead is on it, but I do want to include unposted labor as part of my finals, and I want to see the final total in that project as well. Back over to sorting and grouping. Right now it's going to bring it down to the project phase and task level, but maybe I don't care about that much detail. I just want to see the project level, but then I also want to see it sorted by the different project managers that I have within my company. So I'm going to move that up to the top. Okay, so the next section is columns. There are probably 150 different columns available for this report. These are the standard columns that are checked on for it, but in this case I have a spent amount, and that's the combination of labor and expense that's passed through the system. Maybe I want to see my labor different. Maybe I want to see it broken out. So I'm going to go ahead and find my labor amount, but then I'll also go down and find my total expenses as well. I can move those up. I can now start putting these columns in the order that makes sense for me. So I'm moving my labor and my expenses up above the spent amount here, so I get labor, expenses, and then the total of those two. I'm going to go ahead and apply. And now I could preview that report, and when I preview that report, it's going to give me all 11 of those projects that we had just selected in that project selection. It's going to give me the columns that I've asked for as well, right within a single what we call the office earnings report, which is more of a financial report for Vision. So in this case, these first 3 projects are for Grace Cohen, and then these are the amounts for each one of those projects. These light blue columns are actually drill down, so I can actually drill down into the labor amount here and see the labor detail behind those. You can see a lot of this labor right here has a U next to it. That means it's unposted. It's timesheet time that's sitting out there, and in this case, if William Apple wasn't supposed to spend time on my project, I can go to his supervisor or go directly to him and say, hey, you need to get that time off because I could see it on my project, it was a mistake. Really stop a mistake before it happened, or shorten your billing cycle as well, being able to include unposted labor right on your project reports. Okay, so the other thing that I can do here, again, you saw this earlier with the invoice, I can email this to someone, I can download it into maybe an Excel spreadsheet or an Adobe PDF, whatever I may need to do. When I go ahead and close this, what I can do with this report then is go ahead and say organize favorites, and that'll allow me to save this report. So I'm going to call it Brad's Office Earnings Report. Okay, and when I do that, go ahead and save it. Now it's available up here as a quick report, and every time I log in, that report will be available here. But if I go ahead and move back over to my dashboard as well, you remember that My Reports dash part? Look, it's already there. I've saved it and it instantly becomes available. If I had saved that out to a project management role, all of the project managers would have instantly gotten that report as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch today's presentation. We hope you saw the value that Deltek and Vision can offer, and we hope to speak with you again soon. For further information or for a demonstration catered to your business, please contact us using the information on this slide. Have a great day.